Swami talks about discipleship and the qualities that are required. First quality, courage. Isn't that interesting? Devotion is second, but the first is courage. Because even devotion without courage won't help you. Well, it's better than nothing. Everything helps. We just face the right direction. It doesn't matter even if you're sitting on the ground weeping, at least try to face the right direction while you're doing it. Take what you can. Stretch up toward the top of the wave, even if it's just a little bit like that. Because that's what we have to do. When we were on the, I say we because this was my first 10 years at Ananda village. I lived in the monastery we had. There was a group of, it varied, but 6 or 7 women was the core of it. And we had all come. We were in our early 20s. It was so much fun. This was the early 70s. The whole world, the USA was just coming apart, and I was right in the middle of it. And we were just leaving behind everything and doing something new. And we were with Swami Kriyananda. He was in his 40s. He was so dynamic. We were doing this wild, wonderful project with these Indian. It was so much fun. It was just so much fun. When Swami once said, reincarnation is because you long for something that you didn't have. I said, well, sir, I could do those first 10 years at Ananda again in a heartbeat. I said, it was heaven on earth. Oh, he said, that's different. He said, that's the longing for God, and that's what makes you free. But somewhere about year 4 or 5, I mentioned to you before that somewhere in Master's writings, he has the phrase, you have within you a portable paradise that you can access. And I start meditating. I think, I just made it up, 5 years. 5 years, door to the portable paradise will be open for me. I'll just sit down and walk into it. Suffice to say, it didn't happen. Let's just leave it like that. I just made that up. We make up the dopiest things. But the 5-year mark came. But I remember talking with my women, my sisters, my friends there. And this is the image we came up with. We saw the divine light. Just if we didn't see it literally, we saw it in our hearts. We were there with Swami. This was going to be so much fun. It was like a beautiful island, and it looked really close. So we all just threw ourselves into the water and started swimming like crazy. And we just didn't seem to get any closer. Or maybe it was moving away. It was a little confusing, and we're getting a little tired, like here. And so we kind of stopped treading water, having a conversation. But the shore was now pretty far behind us. So we've moved out of who we were. We have not yet become what we're going to become. So we were treading water, discussing our options. And there were none. The courage to persevere. And God tricks you. Divine Mother is a tricky mother. She just does that. And she lures you in. She gets you going with something or another, and then you're too far from shore to go back, and you haven't quite made it. We made up a word for that. We called it the icky middle. You're just in the icky middle of your journey toward freedom. And there's nothing you can do. You just have to keep going. On the faith, on the promise, and whatever experience you have. That's where your courage comes. Why am I really doing this? What part of me really knows why I'm here? This is absolute authenticity. And it's much more important to be absolutely sincere in what you're doing than it is to look good or to accomplish anything. But just where else could I go? That's what Peter said when Jesus asked him. The end of Jesus' life, when they were all just, running like rats from a sinking ship. Because Jesus was saying things like, drink my body and eat my body and drink my blood. Which is I love this line in the Bible. I have a few favorite lines. Jesus says, eat my body, drink my blood. And the disciples say to one another, this is a hard teaching. And I can just see it. Having had all those years with Swami, I can just see it. The master says something with all this power that they don't understand at all. And they just say, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then they walk outside the door and they say, good God, what have we gotten ourselves into? And it says, and from that point, many walked with him no more. And then Jesus says to Peter, will you also leave me? Peter says, he doesn't say, oh, I understand. This is a symbolic representation of the communion which is going to happen at a later time, and you will set it at the last. Nothing. He says, where would I go? That's what gives you courage. You're in the middle of a battlefield. Everybody's shooting. You have to run across that open area to get your soldiers to the other side. You know, you can't just sit down and wait to be rescued. You just have to pick up and go, because this is who I am. This is what I've been trained for. It's what my life is about. That's where power comes from. It comes from that absolute, where else could I go?